As a strength coach and personal trainer, one of the questions I get asked the most is about food and eating. But I get it. Food is a big part of building muscle and feeling strong. But for most of my life, I put way too much emphasis on food. I tried so many diets thinking that it would be the magic solution to lose weight or grow muscle. And from that, I found myself in cycles of restricting and binge eating that ultimately was a setback in my fitness journey because my body was all over the place with my nutrition. And honestly, it always made me feel way worse about myself. That's why whenever people come to me for food advice or asking about macros, I make it very clear that I am not the coach for that. Also, just going to preface this with saying I am not a nutritionist or a dietitian. There are so many really great ones out there. So if that is what you're looking for, that is not this podcast. Now, I love food. I love eating and I love nourishing my body. I don't believe that we need to track every calorie and every macro we eat or go on crazy diets in order to feel our best. And when I found intuitive eating, it really changed my entire relationship with food. And now it is really the only, I'm going to put this in quote, foods advice that I'll share with people. Now, there are big spectrums when it comes to food. There is the person that's like, this is exactly what you do to count calories and lose weight. And then there's the person that's like, this is intuitive eating. And if you're not following all these 10 principles, then you are not an intuitive eater. I am someone that sits in the gray. There is balance that comes within intuitive eating and being in moderation with what you're eating. So today I'm going to share with you what intuitive eating is, what the principles are, and how you can kind of manage each principle to see if that fits with you, your body, and the data that you need for yourself. Now, the definition of intuitive eating is listening to what your body needs and satisfying your hunger in a very mindful way. Now, some people actually confuse this with the permission to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, and indulging in every single craving. And that is not actually the fact. In reality, intuitive eating is knowing that sometimes your mind craves sweet and salty, but your body is saying it needs some extra fruit and vegetables. It's being able to listen to your body cues to know when you're actually hungry and maybe when you're just bored or have specific emotions that are making you feel like you need to eat a certain thing. Now, intuitive eating is the practice of listening to your body's needs and being intentional about the foods you eat versus simply just acting off of impulse and eating anything. You will notice as I talk about intuitive eating, I say it's a practice, and that is extremely true. This isn't something that you just decide to do one day and then feel 100% confident in it. It takes some time to practice this way of eating and living. And I just hope this episode is just the starting point in your journey with intuitive eating, or at least being more mindful of how and when and why you consume the way you do. Now, intuitive eating is technically an evidence based mind body health approach comprised of 10 principles. It was created by two dietitians named Evelyn Tribole and Elise Reich. So now I'm going to go through each of the 10 principles. And I want after each principle for you to maybe pause this episode, sit with it for a second, maybe go back and repeat it to see if it actually would fit within you, your diet, and your lifestyle. Now, the first one is reject the diet mentality. Stop viewing food as being good or bad, your friend or your enemy. You are not and will not be a failure when it comes to eating. Now, diet is really if you look up the word diet, it is literally just the food that you consume. But a lot of times when we hear the word diet, it has this very negative connotation to it. It's keto or paleo or whole 30 or Weight Watchers or whatever it may be, and that is your diet, and that is the diet mentality. So instead of viewing it as good or bad or like a friend or enemy, I want you to just think about how you can have your diet just actually be your lifestyle. So when you are eating carbs on your carb-free diet, this is not a bad thing. Remember, we're trying to reject that diet mentality. Number 2 is honoring your hunger. Make sure your body stays fueled with energy and carbohydrates. This is a really big one for a lot of people, especially with people that have had some eating disorder in the past because they don't think they're hungry or they think they're full and they overconsume or underconsume. Now, this is going to be really good for you to keep track of your body cues, and like what it actually needs. So maybe you do actually overconsume, and then you can take note of how you actually felt after that actually happened. Maybe you're under consuming and you feel like your body is not fueled enough for your workouts. These are all just data points that you can take with this intuitive eating principle in mind. Number three is making peace with food. Give yourself permission to eat. If you tell yourself you can't have something, it will lead you to want it so much more. This is the epitome of telling a kid you can't have cookies in the cookie jar and him putting his hand right in that cookie jar and getting the cookie out. The more you restrict something, the more power you give it. And so we're literally just making peace with food. You are just giving yourself permission to eat that thing. And the whole goal with intuitive eating, in my perspective, is to be moderate with it, right? I'm still going to eat the cookies and the cake and the ice cream or whatever it may be, but I'm going to be mindful of how much I'm consuming, or I'm going to be mindful of the actual serving that I'm consuming. So if we give ourselves that peace with food and giving ourselves permission to actually eat it, it allows us this opportunity to actually have a better relationship with it. Now, I have people all the time that'll come to me and be like, I can't have chips in the eat, or I can't have chips in the house, or I'll overeat them, or I can't have this. And you can. I think it's really just that the fact that you told yourself you can't, because every time you do, you overeat, that means you can't have it anymore. But if you tell yourself and you actually complete a mindfulness practice with stopping before you overconsume, you actually can have those chips in the house. You actually can. Number four is challenging the food police. Now, there is no good job, Tara, if I ate a salad, and bad, Tara, if I ate a piece of chocolate cake. Chase them away. Do not let them come back in. There is no good or bad. If anything, it is nutrient dense or it is calorie dense. And we all know that the chocolate cake is more calorie dense, and maybe a smoothie is a little bit more nutrient dense, depending on what you have in it, right? So we can look at it as nutrient versus calorie dense, but it doesn't have to be this good or bad. It doesn't have to be like a yes or no. Remember, we're getting rid of that diet mentality or this good or bad or yes or no. We're living in the gray. There is no black or white. We like balance with everything, right? With our relationships, with our workouts, with our food. It's just as important. Number five is respecting your fullness. I want you to really think about pausing in the middle of a meal and putting down your fork, having a sip of water, recognizing your fullness level. I mean, I can say this for myself. How often I'll be sitting at dinner and I'll just eat, eat, eat. And then I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even have a sip of water. I didn't put my fork down. I haven't really said a word to Teddy across the table from me. I need to slow my ass down. And being mindful of those pauses are really going to actually help you have that moderation, live in this neutral of your consumption of food, and allow you to like taste the food, chew the food, enjoy the time that you are with your partner, by yourself, or whatever it is. Food is a time where you can actually enjoy the whole aspect of it. So often we're just trying to force food down our mouth as fast as we possibly can. So, respecting that fullness level is a really important principle to eating intuitively and mindfully. Number six is discover the satisfaction factor. And this is really just eat what you really want to eat. There has been so many times I have had clients come in and say, I really don't like this food. What should I do? And I will literally just say to them, well, don't eat it. And they'll say, but I thought this was healthy. I thought I should be eating this because it's like a healthy thing. And it's like kale salad or something. And I'll be like, well, there's so many other options. So why wouldn't you eat them? So this is like a prime example of doing things that work best for you, right? Having the data of what works, what doesn't work, how you feel after each thing. If I know I'm going to eat some pizza, I'm going to be farty. Like that is what it is. I'm going to be gassy. So I don't do that as much. Not saying that I don't at all. I just don't do it as much. So having this satisfaction factor of like eating what you actually really truly want to eat. God, wouldn't that be so great? Number seven, honor your feelings without using food. Do not use food as a way to comfort yourself for any emotions like anxiety, stress, boredom, sadness, or anger. Now, this principle is interesting to me because Of course, I don't want you to eat when you're sad or you're bored or you're stressed or anxious, but I do want you to eat when you're happy or celebrating. It's a time for family to be together, and it's a time to like be around a table. Like food is what really brings us together, and it's such a powerful, beautiful piece of life. And so while I don't want you to go for food when you are sad or stressed out, food is a valuable aspect of our emotions and how we live life. So try not to go for it when you feel this anxiety, stress, boredom, sadness, or anger, but really sit with those feelings and realize what you actually need to do with those feelings. This principle is actually, it can be really hard for people to overcome because we can be such emotional eaters. But if you click the link in the show notes, I have a whole mindfulness free PDF that you can try out for yourself to actually just collect data on what your hunger levels are, how full you feel, what is happening in your brain, mind, or life when you go into eating those foods and what's happening afterwards. So, this is just another chance for us to check in with the data that we have. Number 8 on the 10 principles of intuitive eating is respect your body. And this is their definition is really like accepting your genetic blueprint. This one I had to sit with for a little while, and I kind of sit in the gray a little bit with this one as well. Genetics do play a really big role in your health and wellness journey. I am not saying that they don't. However, I don't know if this one really needs to be in here as far as intuitive eating goes. Now, this is really just for body image, but I want you to sit with that and let me know how you feel in over on Instagram at the Tara Talk on respecting your body, accepting your genetic blueprint. Because of course I want you to respect your body. Um, but genetics doesn't have to play a role in how you consume your food. That's my 2 cents on that one. Principle number 9 is exercise. Feel the difference. Move your body every day. Notice how you feel after you sweat. Obviously, this is going to be a big one for me. I'm a strength and mobility coach. I want you to lift heavy shit, and I want to inspire women and empower them to take up space by standing in their power and being confident. So, exercise is always, 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 always going to make you feel better now and overall. And so I think that this is a great example of just being intuitive and mindful through exercise, but also kind of playing a role into your food journey as well. And number 10 is honor your health. Now, you don't have to be a perfect eater every day to be considered healthy. This one is pretty self explanatory. No one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. Name any instance in life where anything has been perfect. So, of course, nothing has to be perfect for you to be considered healthy, right? So, having this mindfulness or intuitive practice allows you to be fluid with the food that you consume and fluid with the relationship that you have with food. And so now you have a better understanding and a basic understanding of what intuitive eating is and what the 10 principles are. So let's kind of go into some of the questions that I get all the time based on intuitive eating, based on those principles, and kind of based on how I utilize it with my clients and with myself. Now, first of all, who is it for? Intuitive eating really is for anyone and everyone in all ages, from 5 years old. I wish I had intuitive eating when I was growing up to 98, 100 years old. I really do think that it is especially important for anyone with a past disordered eating or dieting because it really helps you to connect with your body and with your hunger cues. I have had some disordered eating in the past. I did some binge eating. I had a really terrible relationship with food. I was in a really bad place mentally, and it really did stemmed from binge eating and my relationship with food. And for me, intuitive eating has been this really cool place to actually build that relationship back up again and now feel so comfortable with talking about it, eating in front of people, not having to hide anything or feeling like my value was attached to how I actually ate. And really, it's great for anyone looking to improve their health because once you understand intuitive eating, you're really just going to be able to nourish your body and know how to fuel it based on your personal genetic needs versus listening to general advice. because we all know we can go on Instagram or TikTok and scroll through and say, "Oh, this works for this person. I should do this." But really, we can take that and use it as data, right? We could just trial and error things. And then you can put in your intuitive eating or mindful eating approach into that as well. Now, a question I get asked a lot is, can you track calories and count calories and practice intuitive eating? Now, as a whole, if we were to be looking at intuitive eating from the principles and this is what intuitive eating is, not necessarily, right? We're trying to reject this diet mentality. So if we were actively counting calories and intuitive eating, those are not the same. And so that's kind of where I live in this gray place with intuitive eating and counting calories because I don't fully lean right or I don't fully lean left. I personally don't find tracking useful and I anymore. And I never really did. However, I do think like having a good understanding of a serving size, I do think having a good understanding of what you are consuming is great. There doesn't need to be a number attached to that. And so some people find it supportive when they're just getting started out with health and understanding food. I think the intuitive eating aspect is this intuition, but without having some sort of education based on that intuition, it's hard to know. And so at least seeing how many ounces of chicken am I actually eating? That way you can have a good understanding of how much protein you're consuming when you eat that chicken. Or having a good understanding of, how much protein is in an egg, something like that. I think it could be good for people. You can track portions of your daily intake and still be intuitive about what your body is needing. And again, I think it's just to have a good understanding of what is in certain things, not necessarily looking at the numbers across the board. And you can actually utilize this in the tracker below as well and write down basically using like the palm of your hand, right? We can utilize that as well here. Another question is, what if I go off the rails by intuitive eating? I've gotten that question quite a bit of if I've gone so off the rails in counting calories or super restricted, I'm on this side of the spectrum all the way on the right. And then if I go off the rails of intuitive eating and I feel like I'm just kind of binge eating again because I'm giving myself the ability to eat all the things, I'm all the way on the left. And so it's this constant like spectrum of really right or really left. And where is that balance, right? Because the goal of eating intuitively is to find that balance. It's to find that gray. And really, this can happen with anything in life. Balance is kind of a skewed concept because what even really is it? Balance is going to feel different for everyone and the same for moderation, right? For instance, I feel like I have a balanced lifestyle, but I eat dessert every single day. Every night I have dessert, and some people may not feel that way. Others maybe have 1 to 2 drinks a week, and that's moderate to them. Yet to me, I feel best without alcohol in general. So I just don't. So the first step is getting clear on what balance and moderation means to you. What does that actually mean? Because I can tell you what it means to me, but that's probably not going to be the same as what it means to you. Now, once you're actually in tune with your body and you know what it needs and what it likes, you are much less likely to go off the rails because you are aware and you know how you feel better than anyone else. And granted, like there will always be moments where maybe you eat too much or you eat something that doesn't feel the best, AKA major holidays while traveling and some maybe emotional times. But guess what? You can acknowledge that it happened and move the fuck on. Move on. Because every day is a chance to begin again. And with that, returning to eating in a way that makes you feel your best. There's always going to be holidays. There's always going to be celebrations. There's always going to be travel. But that is a part of life, right? We need to be able to enjoy life in a balance. And so when I go to Europe for 2 weeks at a time and eat a croissant every day and don't even know how much protein I'm eating or if there's any protein at all in anything, and then I come back and I'm feeling bloated or heavy and I'm like feeling down, I still know that I had a great time and I can come back to my home and just get right back on track without being so restrictive, without beating myself up, without going down these binge eating cycles, because I know that I can just get back right on track right away. There is nothing you can do right now about the past, but there's always something that you can do moving forward. And that's why mindful eating and intuitive eating is so freaking valuable for myself, for my clients, and everyone that I've ever come into contact with intuitive eating. It's such a beautiful approach to our relationship with not only yourself, your body, but also the food you consume. And also being in social settings when there is food and feeling like you can actually feel comfortable and confident in those social settings. Because guess what? You already know your body. You already know how it's going to feel. You already know yourself. Because if you put this intuitive eating practice into play. Now, if you want any more resources, there are tons of podcasts and books and Instagram pages. Gosh, there's so many really great resources out there. So I really hope that this gives you a little piece of wanting to learn more about it or just being more in tune with your body. There's a book called Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and the Intuitive Eating Workbook if you want to try that out. There is also a book called Anti-Diet that explains why dieting can impact health and how to embrace intuitive eating. A couple of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow is Sam of at find.food.freedom. Her podcast is called What's the Actual Fork? There's also Colleen of at no.food.rules. She has an intuitive eating app that could be really supportive. I've had a lot of clients try out her app. It's called the Society, but it's Society. I don't know how to say it. But then, so really great Instagram to follow. I also have that free PDF. I will put it in the show notes for you. It will help you start practicing mindful eating by paying attention to how you feel during your meals, your hunger, your fullness scales, and more. And I created this based off my own experience with intuitive eating, what has helped me listen to my own body. And I really think that it can help you and be supportive for you. So just click in the link in the show notes to download it. It's totally free. It'll get sent to your email. It's a PDF. You can print it out. You can have it on your phone to look back at. But I really, truly, truly hope that this episode has answered some of your questions around intuitive eating and just want you to like maybe give it a try or take any of these principles and put it into how you eat. As always, thank you so much for being here, for listening to me. I appreciate this community more than you know. And I am here. If you have any more questions, I love to support my clients one-on-one with intuitive eating. And you can find out more on my Instagram at Tara LaFerrara and also at the Tara Talk. I hope you are having an amazing and wonderful day.